Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Seraphim Serenades on the Our Playtex Reality YouTube channel. In this group, I channel my Seraphim and angelic guides and angels I'm very close to and their wisdom. Today, I'll be channeling Archangel Metatron, and he is an archangel that is very present in the light and the geometry of nature, and he will explain that. These channelings are recorded in front of a live group every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when we do this. And we go live from Zoom. You can find that link in the SPA, Starseed Psychics, Angels, and Walk-ins meetup group, as well as it's a Facebook group where these events get posted, as well as the link should be available there. I'll be sure to add the link to that website in the YouTube video in the comments below. If you do have any questions and are not able to participate, feel free to comment in the comments below. Or you can also message me at Troy J. Bacon on Facebook, or also message me on my website at newbeinghypnosis.com or at troy@newbeinghypnosis.com. If you have any questions that you would like Archangel Metatron or my Seraphim guide Keziah to comment on and bring some clarity on, then please do so, and they are happy to answer your questions. Otherwise, they do very much enjoy live group participation if you can make it on Mondays. In addition to that, these channelings are free. The live group participation is free. I do ask that the participants keep their personal questions to a minimum, as more personal questions and things to go into more depth about can be done in a private reading, which I offer and can be arranged in via newbeinghypnosis.com, where I also offer my hypnotherapy and Reiki healing services. And so the Seraphim channeled healing sessions are when I channel my Seraphim guide Keziah, or also an archangel, perhaps, if that needs to happen or if you desire, um, so that they can give you a reading from their perspective into your life, give you some depth and clarity and answer your questions, as well as give you a light language healing and teach you about and tell you what your light language soul name sounds like, possibly even draw the symbol for you. They can also tell you about your family ancestral karma that you inherited and that goes back on your father's or mother's side and their sides, and then they can help clear that, heal that, send healing energy to those generations, as well as give you an ancestral healing from the angelic realms. So I hope that you enjoy this channeling and teaching. Let's get into it. And peace to you.
Are we doing Metatron today?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Metatron has messages to share. It is so good to greet you with a hallelujah for the joy of being able to communicate in this fashion again. My name is Archangel Metatron, as many of you know me, and I am a recorder of wisdom and a teacher of wisdom, as well as the geometry itself of nature. And perhaps you could think of me as, in a way, a bridge of light between the divine and light realms and the transference of light into geometry and matter. There's so much light and fun to be had. So today, I have a somewhat specific course of teachings to convey, and it has a lot to do with what we've been witnessing on this planet at this time as the divergement of timelines progresses, and indeed this planet is currently host and has been for some time now to literally multiple timelines and realities. Back in the day, it used to be that this planet was just its own singular planet with its own singular timeline. However, there are things that humans have done that have opened up what you might call a rift, a tear in kind of like the fabric of space-time and the wall between two or more earthly timelines that used to be relatively separate. And this happened in the laboratory that you call CERN as having multiple layers to it. And yes, there is just a normal, what do you call, particle collision ring experiment. And there's much that has gone on just within that. We can say much that your media has not published. However, there are not only within that ring, there are energies and not just entities, but effects that have been observed and recreated too, that should not have been able to happen according to previously assumed laws of physics. And it is because of some of these strange effects having been not only generated, but regenerated, recreated, and reformed, refined in the ways that they've been done, that this has been an opening, I suppose what you could call a portal, a passing place between timelines that has allowed multiple timeline realities to be able to manifest on this earth at this time. And some of those include both light and dark, some are neutral. You call this overlapping of timelines, many call it the Mandela effect, where most people remember one thing being one specific way, one phrase perhaps in a movie or media source being one way, a word, and then indeed you check the record and the movie, and it is now something else. Even Troy has experienced this himself in his own life, not that has been published, in the very real way of small details of matter that he and another have witnessed together, observed together, and then moments later noticing that what should have been solid physical matter shifted into a different orientation. This is happening, of course, all around this rock sphere. And we're bringing up this issue because there's another area of humanity that this is affecting, and that has become an area which we recommend very high levels of discernment in. And that is often called the false light, where just as Metatron is the bridge and union between the light designs of the divine realm and the geometric intelligent designs of the natural planetary realm. We see this as unfortunate because forevermore there have always been certain numbers and populations of what are really keepers of light and wisdom on not only this but all other rock spheres that can be inhabited. This one in particular is of some importance right now during this change period, and just as every type of information is now not only available but has been seen and observed by every practically every human, every type of human, there has been a somewhat unhealthy and disrespectful merging of the light and the dark in the ways that the true keepers of the light, you know who you are on this planet, have of course been rightfully vocal and honest about their perceptions, perhaps some prophecies, ways that they do things, and this has been very rightfully and proudly shared in your media sources. And the false light is not of these light keepers so much, in truth. It's an effect of what are mostly what you might call earth souls, souls that have not had incarnations outside of this rock sphere, and also other souls that may not be so awakened in so much of the light of wisdom and keeping of true light. Some souls also have partaken in the false light simply because they desire perhaps certain amounts of attention that your media sources grant them just by saying certain things. Whereas these more earth focused souls that are not, for the most part, really keepers of light are trying to speak and have been speaking some of the words and ways of the true keepers of light, but they're not speaking it in absolute truth, in light and clarity. There have been many supposed prophecies as well as rumors and other ideas spread around that again are partly to gain media attention. Some just have been entertaining ideas in their own way. And just as human free will is respected, this may continue, but again, we advise much discernment in this field, just as may be healthy everywhere, especially in this change time. And so, what we want to talk about next is a bit more of what you can do about this false light effect as it has become in the wake of the converging of earthly timelines. It starts with where light shines the brightest within each of you and within the human aura, which is naturally in the heart. And we have stated in a previous channeling that it is important to pay attention to where you place your attention most of the time and where you stand in that way, as the mind and the heart are both naturally linked as two powerful energetic spheres in your makeup that each house a different portion and function of your soul as it is incarnated. And so, by various means that have been around of perhaps purifying, of calming, of healing, of restoring, and illuminating the heart sphere, as well as unifying the heart with the mind. We will admit this is not an easy process to get good at for most, but it is something important to learn. This is what your mystery schools of this planet have taught and teach. And so it's by becoming aware of what is in your heart and mind, perhaps outside influences have clouded it, have perhaps instilled fear in different ways, ideas of fear, ideas of separation. These are advised to be paid attention to. And these don't have to be you, as they of course come from other people. In the example of media sources, a lot of these ideas come from teams of people, which we also advise to practice discernment for, to protect your light. Be very discerning, perhaps engage with intuition and feeling of any particular idea, story, the way a story is portrayed, a narrative is portrayed, feels not only right for you, but if it feels like it is being portrayed in honesty, integrity, in a light of respect of perhaps the individuals and the source involved. And so it is really essential for the heart and mind to engage in discernment for the maintenance of what can be a greater and growing light within you. Just as in the example of the body, when you become discerning and very intentional about your food sources, the body will often start to heal itself and function better. Same goes for the mind and heart and energy. As you practice discernment, practice true feeling, really tuning into your source, your light and soul, then the true light, your soul's essence that is designed to shine through your heart and mind will do so, as long as you protect it and respect it, and this function and relationship will grow. Light is not something that ignores the safety and validity and well-being and respect of others. Light is not something that destroys all. Light is not something that wants anyone enslaved or being subordinated or tormented. Light is the nature of you, the nature of every single human who has been born on this earth, regardless of the ways in which they may have been raised and perhaps deluded by various sources of darkness and teachings. Light is one that lends illumination, clarity, unification. Light is one that helps instill and grow brotherhood, sisterhood within the commonality and community of man. We recommend that you think of these qualities of what light truly is, the light of what you may call source, God, creator, Allah, Yahweh, Spirit, Great Spirit, whatever name you call the greater creator and source of life, it is available to you in unconditional love if you call on it and you make yourself available to it. And we again advise that you think of these qualities of light and not in your practices of discernment of whether you are dealing with honest and dishonest, light and dark light individuals. We have so much love for you, so much love for the light and divinity that your soul and body is capable of. I am Archangel Metatron, a recorder, protector, conveyor, and maintainer of light and wisdom, as it is manifested upon each of the planetary spheres within this planetary firmament realm. Now, as we understand that this is a group interaction, I open this communication channel now to the rest of the group for individuals who have questions.
Thank you, Metatron. It's great to be in your presence again. I have a couple questions on my mind so far. I think me and Troy could use some advice, and many other people and friends that we have, on what is the best way of going about shielding and protecting ourselves from negative energies and entities when we're working with other people, especially when healing or doing mediumship or things like that.
Yes, we understand and recognize the importance of this issue. And what we can recommend is looking at perhaps the nature of light and also considering the way that some have commonly cast protection. We don't recommend to cast it in a stern and judgmental way of banishing, but it is perfectly safe and viable to do your individual and perhaps some traditional invocations of angels, light spirits, and divine protection in the way of calling in and requesting for our assistance to maintain a barrier or something more like a field, an emanation of sacredness around you during your ceremonies, practices, and times of sacred healing. And by doing this, you may simply just request that the energy of sacredness be maintained around you, and that any and all entities within perhaps a certain radius or area of you engage only within a light of love, truth, benevolence, sacredness, respect, and so on for you and what you're doing. And this will be enough to just naturally, what do you call, ward off some of the darker entities that would want to feed on you.
So is it, so I mean, what many of us are often taught in our trainings is that intention is everything. So if we ask or we set the intention of putting up a barrier to keep out anything that's not of love and light, is that in itself sufficient, or should we do a little more than that?
Yes, this can be sufficient. We would also recommend infusing your protective radius with the request of and the energy of sacredness, sacred space, perhaps majesty, even regalness, if you wish,
Mm.
to be resonant in alignment with very high, what you might describe as godly light energies.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's a good confirmation. I just wanted to make sure that we're kind of going about that the right way. Um, I've heard it mentioned by, several different people. I think actually, Metatron, you even said this to us last time. Is it correct to say that it's better to focus on one particular energy or art form, or is it better to develop more of a toolbox where we have an option of things to use, or is putting too much energy and focus into too many different directions essentially reducing our energy too far, spreading ourselves too thin?
We do see that, yes, there is an effect of the potential of you reducing your energy by spreading it too thin, especially of projecting into the future too much instead of being and creating in the moment. But we also ask, which of these paths feels right to you, having multiple tools or focusing on perhaps one or a few?
And in my own case, personally, I mean, the first art or the first method I studied was angelic Reiki, which was channeled from you, of course. And I was using that exclusively for a while. And then I came across another system that we call Seraphic Blueprint Healing, which is developed by somebody I think a lot more advanced. And we use a blue rain of concentrated divine love technique. And just through the experience of the many clients I've worked on over the years, it seems like most people tend to prefer the blue rain or prefer the effects or notice the effects more from the blue rain than they do from the angelic Reiki. So does that mean I should just focus on using the blue rain and kind of let the angelic Reiki go? Or is there a good purpose in practicing both of these art forms?
We see that both and multiple energies and techniques of applying them can be valid and useful depending on the individual and the purpose. However, we do also see that there are certain energies and frequencies and methods of applying them that can be more effective or yield more of a change result in people. One thing that we can say about the the divine blue frequency that you have accessed, and also that Troy's accessed in a different way, is that the blue color, that blue light, does translate into the human body in a more somewhat solid and effective way than perhaps what you might term violet light. Often, blue does yield pain relief and physical relief effects.
Okay, so am I correct then? And I think I kind of think of the angelic Reiki as being like a violet type of energy, or maybe a white type light, but maybe more violet. The blue rain is obviously an indigo, a deep blue, deep purplish kind of color. And then I've recently become exposed to another healing frequency called from Cryon, called the green mist. And that's another healing system that they're using on a weekly basis. Am I correct then in assuming that all three of these have better uses, or could you shed any light on what the proper use of angelic Reiki, or what we should target that for versus the blue energy versus the green energy?
Hmm.
I'm asking tough questions today.
What we can say about starting with violet is that, yes, it is, as you know, a very high frequency energy and light spectrum that is not quite visible for most people to your eyes. And it is a bit more of a transitional energy from physicality to the next uh, sort of realm of energy existence. And so, yes, utilizing this violet energy does especially affect the energy body and mind and emotions. It is excellent at clearing those, lightening them up.
Okay.
Whereas blue compared to it, this divine deep blue energy is, of course, very calming, soothing, and like we said, yields a sometimes more physical and deeply healing effect on the body, a bit more of the physical body. Also, of course, soothing and healing the mind and emotions. Blue light from your devices, as many of you know, has also been proven to sometimes be intense on your eyeballs. So, although this divine blue healing energy is magnificent for physical healing, green energy is an energy to work with that is kind of like a key to the doorway of love and life and vitality, especially of the heart center, but more just physical vitality, as you see, of course, so much green outside of your square rooms, trees and grass and all other plants, of course, commonly have green in them and express a lot of green. And this is their expressions of vitality of the earth in their energy. And this green energy also lends a often physical, but also light and loving charge to the body, as well as perhaps mind and emotions that are related to it.
Okay, and if I can add, just to piggyback on the same question, my teacher who who taught me the blue rain energy has developed a new energy now, which he calls, I believe, the bright white light or the pure white light, which is reportedly even much stronger than the blue energy. Could you shed some light on what that would be good for? And specifically for myself, if that's something that would be useful for me in my path.
What we can say about white light healing energy is that it's very much more all-encompassing of all of the colors of the rainbow and more. And so, especially depending on how you use it, it can bring together and include all of the other colors that we just talked about and more. And white light can also translate itself into the color frequency energies that a person may need, perhaps as a whole, or also in each energy center or channel or part of them.
A little bit more of a universal usage there, a little bit more powerful with the white light versus, say, the others. And so I'm starting to see here, and thank you so much for these answers. This brings so much clarity to me, but I'm starting to see here that depending on the individual that we're working with and their particular needs, we can kind of weave together different combinations of these frequencies to best help the client or the person that we're assisting. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes, we would recommend that as a good approach, as each of these color frequency energies, yes, can yield different results, and each person needs something different.
So just to recap on that, I mean, I know angelic Reiki is classified as transformational Reiki, which would make perfect sense there for transforming mental and emotional stuff. So a little more maybe higher spiritual stuff where the blue is better for the body and the physical. The green would be better for love and heart and vitality type uses. And then the white light would be more for added power or maybe more universal usage or maybe to cover something else that we're unable to work with directly. Is that all correct?
Yes, that sounds correct.
Okay, great.
And a bit more about white light. It can be applied as its own healing energy if that feels right for what is um, being addressed. Whereas if another healing energy is applied during the session or at all, then white light can also be useful simply as a sort of like smoothing, polishing energy of the treatment to
A good
perhaps,
finishing technique.
yes, affect, ensure that nothing was missed.
So these answers are telling me that I wasn't really incorrect in my instincts of just what I did on my own, where with most clients I would work with, I would have them meditate first with a standard kind of yogic meditation, chakra meditation. Then I would generally do, I think what I would decide on is to do the blue rain next, then the angelic Reiki, and then if I were to take the white light class, I would want to finish with the white light. Would that seem to be the most basic, simple approach to use with everyone?
Yes, we can see this as being highly effective as it can address and be applicable to almost everyone.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarity. I mean, that's kind of what my instincts or my guides and angels were leading me to do. Um, but I'm just glad that you're able to confirm that for me. Jess, would you like to ask a question or any questions? Go ahead. And if not, I'll try to sit here and think of some more good stuff to ask.
I can't think of anything to ask right now.
Okay, well, just jump in if you do. If something comes to mind, just feel free to jump in. I think I might have talked about this last time as well, about this kind of two schools of thought or two attitudes that people in spirituality tend to gravitate towards. One side being the side that's aware of the dark and the light and aware that there's entities or beings that we want to be resistant of or protect ourselves against. And then we have this kind of other school of thought, which is we just kind of ignore the dark and pretend that it doesn't exist. Something in me, my instincts are telling me that and I just want to make sure this isn't just like my human thinking or if this is correct from a higher level, but it seems to me that ignoring darkness, evil, harmful energies, and pretending like they're not there or just ignoring them to not feed them with energy. I see the point of doing that, but it seems to me rather unsafe that some people are going around with this belief that if I only believe in love and light, then nothing bad can happen. Is this fantasy? Is this something that we're just deluding ourselves with? Or should we all really be aware of the dark and the light? Should we all really be practicing protection? Or does it really just come down to the individual's belief system?
We would like to say that just as our Earth teacher friend Cryon has said, belief systems are BS, and again, we do advise and suggest using discernment in engaging with these ideas, and that discernment is useful, especially combined with really honest, deep feeling and senses with each of your energy centers and your higher spiritual guidance and intelligence of what feels truly honest and most appropriate.
Yeah, just to,
Whereas
mm,
what
sorry.
we do see is that yes, there is both dark and light, and there has never been a complete separation, I suppose, between either, kind of based on perspective, as there's, of course, the lighter dimensions and realms where angels and light beings reside, and other beings, and there are some lower realms that are home to beings who are comfortable in the darkness. Some are vampiric, some are not. So, yes, it's about discernment. We could liken it to, as a metaphor, similar to how you humans have all of your groups and clubs that are each of a different intention, a different focus, and a different community, perhaps, different kind of people. And some groups are very much open to anyone and everyone. Some groups and clubs are highly selective, perhaps only appropriate for certain age groups. Some are only appropriate and welcoming to certain types of individuals who share certain values. And this is okay to participate in what feels best for you on your unique soul journey in this lifetime. But we do always advise truly feeling your heart, your gut, your mind, using them together, feeling all of yourself with your soul's essence too, and what feels best for you at any given time.
Always rely on the instincts. Got it. So, out of the many psychics and practitioners that I do know, it seems to me that most of the ones that have a lot of experience, like they've been doing it for 20 or 30 or 40 years, they seem to have this kind of more evolved, mature perspective on the issue, and that they say, I don't really see light and dark because it seems like we reach a point of spiritual maturity when we can, I guess, value the light and the dark equally, so we don't have to see the difference in them. Is that kind of the correct belief that we should all eventually evolve into? Meaning that once we're older, we can kind of get rid of the division in our perceptions, but perhaps when we're younger, it's more valuable for us to distinguish between the dark and the light, so we know how to, say, keep ourselves safe and avoid dangerous situations. Is that correct?
We see that, yes, much information and learning and perspective is stored and changes within a human body and brain and mind as you age, and yes, perspectives change, and that happens with experience. As perhaps some psychics and healers may witness and experience perhaps darker beings and various shades and flavors of what may not be exactly illuminated and bright, but just parts of this world, but not necessarily of harm either. That's okay, and that is up to the individual to align with what they resonate. The way in which we'd like to clarify our statement earlier that the way in which the light and the dark can kind of bleed into each other and lend to each other. It's not that they're indistinguishable, but it's partly based on perception that, similar to symbols such as your yin yang and hunab ku symbols, represent an even, basically, spiraling and union of light and dark, and that the dark has a little bit of light in it, as well as the light is seen as having a little bit of dark in it too. It's these not necessarily opposing and separate perspectives, but togetherness that makes the whole. Whereas a balance or respect of both existences are also valued and possibly essential, but just like we have proposed before, the true meaning of life, and especially what this planet is moving towards at this time anyway, is not to shun and push out all the darkness, although some of it will be transmuted, but to really align with vitality, with joy, with love, with passion, and to, for each individual and as a collective, to become more of your divine essence, enlightened potentials that can understand both, but very much are in alignment with life itself.
Yeah, I think in my personal journey, I'm at least arrived at the point where I understand the value of the light and the dark as it affects us in our human journeys, and that, we need the light for knowledge and wisdom and understanding, protection and healing. Um, but the dark also serves its purpose in our life by motivating us to move in the proper direction. So we shouldn't disdain the dark or whatever, but maybe when we're younger or starting out in our journeys, we need to be more aware of the dark so that we can, protect against it or resist against it. Whereas it seems like once we've matured enough and have enough experience and knowledge and wisdom, we can kind of let go of that division of light and dark and kind of see the whole for what it is and just appreciate everything kind of equally. Is this correct? This is what I seem to perceive from people.
Yes, just as it may be scary for a lot of people at first to consider giving some darker beings a chance or validity, there can be life and not so much brightness, but a type of life and light within the dark, in the way that there are some creatures that are comfortable there in the darker realms, you could call it lower realms, similar to how there are plenty of nocturnal species on this planet and others, whereas they are simply just living there in their own element.
Yeah, I recently came to understand that there's even certain life forms or entities that are born in the lower, more denser dimensions and who can never actually escape those dimensions, but they're more native to that energy. So obviously, when we look at different humans, some of us are more aligned with, say, angelic energy, like seraphic energy, and some people are more aligned with earth energy, and some people are more aligned with fey energy, or some people may be more aligned with dragon energy. Specifically for those of us who are aligned with the angelic energies and the higher frequencies, um, I guess I kind of have a suspicion in my mind that if we're more in tune with these higher energies, say seraphic energy, it would kind of tell me that maybe dragon energy, which a lot of other people may see as a very high energy, is actually kind of a step down for angelics. So does that mean we should, as like angelic beings, we should more or less, unless or when it's necessary, use them, but focus more on our frequencies and bringing that frequency into the world rather than trying to use, say, lower frequencies that might be good for other purposes? Should we kind of stay in our own lane as angelics, or do we have the same flexibility as any human?
Again, we do recognize and advise the importance of discernment in each of these modes of being, but also angelic souls are free to observe and engage with energies that they are resonant with and wish to mingle with. And from this perspective, from our perspective as angels, we don't see anything wrong with mingling and engaging with other beings such as fairies and dragons and elemental beings and other beings, especially as long as they are respectful and to some degree enlightening and awakening and valuable in the experiences with them.
Perfect.
We don't see that fairies and dragons, for example, are necessarily lower in energy and vibration than angels, although fairies especially are usually associated with the earth and each planet that they reside on and are more cyclical, changing by the season and the element and perhaps plant and being that they represent. Um, they have their light too.
Certainly, and it's not that I feel any opposition towards, these other types of energies, but I have noticed quite frequently, especially recently, that when I tend to interact with people who are of, say, Fey energy, like they say, I'm a Fey person or I'm fairy or whatever, we seem to butt heads a lot. Like our energies don't integrate well. Like my energy makes the Fae feel uncomfortable, the Fae's energy makes me feel uncomfortable. Is that just something we need to pay attention to on a case by case basis, or could we kind of generalize that just a little more and say, well, if I'm really aligned with angelic energy and I tend to have these negative experience with people with Fae energy, is it just a natural human reaction to say, maybe I should try to avoid this Fey energy as much as possible? Because that's kind of what seems logical to me in my human mind.
Similar to how we recommended earlier, it doesn't hurt to experiment and see what you feel and what works for you about mingling with and experiencing other types of energy and beings. It's not a law or rule that angels and fairies don't get along or that we don't mix. In fact, in many cases we do. But the one of the common differences between angels and fairies is that angels, just as the name suggests, are messengers of God in the divine realm, typically, where that's a very absolute energy that doesn't change much.
Right.
And it's just always very much of the light and pretty
It's a
much
bit
how it
over,
is.
it's almost like a bit overwhelming for people with different frequencies. It can be
It
overwhelming, it can be too intense for them.
it can be depending on perhaps the day and where they're at that time. Um, fairy energy can also be very enlightened, though. Fairies
Right.
themselves are typically fifth dimensional spirits um, that they have their own spiritual existence, but they also often are connected in some way to an element or a
Right.
plant or even an animal or something else that can change and um, cycle and fluctuate depending on the earth.
Right. So just for a little bit more clarity here, so it would seem that, it's not impossible for, say, an angelic type being to work with an elemental type being, but perhaps the difficulty comes in the extreme variation between the frequencies that we generally run at. And it's so it would seem like we don't need to like necessarily avoid each other or anything like that, but we just need to be aware when our energies will not mix or are not mixing correctly, and then maybe create a little more distance between those that we're not mixing with very well. Is that the correct approach then?
Yes, in a way. In fact, there are angels too that are working with the earth and with fairies to help clean up the earth and to help maintain things. So yes, our dimensions and ways of being do work together, but again, this experience and connection can also depend on your, what do you call, human design matrix and blueprint of sort of how your energy expresses and perhaps shines in certain ways that are, you could call it filtered um, by the natural imprint of your body, but that does not have to be the absolute energy of your soul and nature.
Right, right. There's no real absolutes, but there can be differences. I kind of see. And we got to kind of take it on a case by case basis. Um, I just want to make sure I'm not jumping to conclusions. If I meet, 5 people of the Fae and I have 5 negative interactions, am I jumping into conclusions to say that maybe that energy doesn't vibe very well with me as an individual? Or should I just always take it on a case by case basis because some Fey energy may bother me and other Fey energy may not, or something like that, or elemental energy or earth energy or something like that?
Yes, yes, this does depend on each case. We see that there may be some fairies in human bodies that you will mix with, some also outside of human bodies that you will mix with better than others. Even fairy people tend to mix or tend to resonate most with a certain element or a certain type of element in being,
Yeah, that
just
makes sense.
as within their life and their existence. Some of them are very much in alignment with trees or bees or certain types of herbs. Not all fairy people live the same way. They kind of choose their own path, but often aligned with an element or a being of the earth.
Okay, well, I think I'm kind of out of questions for today. I just want to be respectful of Troy's time. We've gone just over an hour and a half. As always, so grateful to be in your presence and to be able to get clarity on so many issues that's so hard for us to figure out on our own. Just we feel blessed to be here with you, and we're so glad to be able to do this. And we're looking forward to continuing doing this into the future. Okay, well, this has been just very rewarding, enlightening, and confirming and clarifying for myself, and I'm sure for Troy and everybody else. So thank you so much, Metatron, all wise, mighty teacher. We always look forward to working with you more.
It has been a joy to converse with you at this time. And just as always, we have so much love for you and all of humanity. If any individuals are ever struggling, please remember that we always welcome you to just ask. for assistance, ask for guidance, and we're there and we're here for you.
Yes, you are. And how wonderful for us. Where would we be without our angels? All right, thank you so much.
Many blessings of angelic miracles to you.
Thank you for all your support.